Hello everyone, I'm back with another video on my Patreon win. This is going to be round 2 versus Kingsnail. I know that he's on Go Control, and I know that he plays some aggressive monsters like Abyss Soldier, Kaiku, stuff like that. Yeah, let's just get right into the game. So I get to go first again. Okay. So, question here is just whether you want to commit Sangan or Spy. Also have an option to summon Sangan or set it. And also have to decide on whether you just set Jar Greed or whether you set Jar with Regeki Break. So Sangan is pretty important to this specific hand because it can grab Serpent, which helps with the Regeki Break. So I definitely don't want to set Sangan, because I feel like Sangan getting knocked and then having a Spy in my hand isn't really where I want to be. So I would rather set Spy. If that gets knocked, then next turn I still, if he summons, I don't know, Kaiku, Abyss Soldier, anything aggressive. Or if he has like an end-phase Scapegoat meta play, that can, my Sangan could maybe bait that. Yeah, so there's only really one good play here, and that's just set Spy, set Jar of Greed, and no reason to set the Regeki Break behind that. Okay, so he starts with Duo. So I have to think on whether I want to change Jar of Greed here. Obviously, I have a 1 in 34 chance to draw into Serpent, so that's obviously good. What are the benefits to holding Jar of Greed? It's like the question. It might still bait a breaker. There's no chance of drawing Thunder Dragon plus Thunder Dragon. No chance of drawing like a Pot of Greed that gets discarded by Duo. But overall, using the Jar of Greed here gives you more information on what you should discard for Duo. Because right now I have no idea what I should discard. Having the 5th card will make it a lot easier. Well, will make me make a better decision on the discard. So in general, I change Jar of Greed here very often, which gives me Spy. And the Duo hits Sangan. So what's the discard now? Obviously not discarding Knock. Chaos Sorcerer seems also pretty good because if I draw Thunder Dragon, Faith, it's going to be live, and it's pretty much the only thing I got going for my hand. So I'm not discarding that. So between Regeki Break and Spy. So I don't need Spy in the case that I don't actually need a defending monster. So, but if he doesn't have Knock, then this Spy would be surviving, so this Spy in hand is just not actually doing anything. So I think overall I just want to be discarding the Spy. Obviously Thunder Dragon just makes my hand extremely good because it's the light for Sorcerer plus discard fodder for Regeki Break. So I'm playing towards that. Getting rid of the Spy. He also has Pot, and then Knock for Spy. He sets a monster, and I draw that Thunder Dragon. So just knock here and set Regeki Break. So there was also a Chaos Sorcerer decision. I could just summon it, attack for 23, drop him to 47. I have Regeki Break to stop potential Snatch, to stop potential creature swap. However, he could easily have like Heavy Storm, like Heavy plus Snatch, Heavy plus something. I feel if I summon Sorcerer, I'm just going to lose the game. Very likely. So I need to... Because right now he has a lot of cards. And Control generally has a lot of reactive cards that do well when an opponent puts monsters on field, such as Chaos Sorcerer. So I need a little more before I decide to make a play. He draws Upstart and then Charity. May have held Charity and is now using it. So his discards are Creature Swap, Meta, which are some pretty strong discards, especially if he has Scapegoat in hand. So you might think that he doesn't have Scapegoat. Either that or has other copies of Meta or Creature Swap. So there's that Kaiku, which I am going to Regeki Break. I have to, otherwise my Sorcerer's just dead. And he sets a back row, and I draw BLS. So I have a potential 5,300 total damage here. Obviously that doesn't win the game, so never doing that. I could just drop Chaos Sorcerer attack. But look at the discards. He discarded Creature Swap Meta, which are some pretty strong discards. So he needs to have better cards than this. And those better cards easily handle Chaos Sorcerer. Basically, I could summon Scapegoat, and he'll Snatch, or he will use Goat, and then Meta. And then I'm just like forced to summon BLS after that, and then I lose. So there's only one play here, and it's to just end turn. If he has another Kaiku, then I lose. But you just have to take the chance. He sets another back row. Could be Dust Shoot. There's no Dust Shoot. I draw Mind Con. Again, same reasoning as last turn. I'm just going to pass. He passes back. So notice what he's doing here. He has no way to do anything. This is basically telling me that he needs me to play something like Chaos Sorcerer for him to be able to do anything. So he just has like Goat Meta that he can't do anything with because I'm not committing to the board. Alright, I draw Magician of Faith. I have a Knocking Grave. And again, I'm not going to commit it because he could just have Goat Meta. And I don't want to force myself to go Chaos Sorcerer. So, just keep playing this game of pass. He sets another card. I draw Jar of Greed. So option here to set Mind Control and Jar of Greed. I don't actually think I want to do that because the Mind Control is pretty important to my hand because he has full Trinity Engrave. So I will want Mind Control for when he inevitably draws Faith. So I'm just going to set Jar of Greed. If it gets MST'd, it gets MST'd. He plays his Jar of Greed and sets a monster. I draw another Mind Control. So before I think about whether I want to mind control, I'm just going to play Jar of Greed first, which gives me charity. So that's a really good draw. Just play that charity here, which gives me Sork, Tribe, Heavy. So when I have these cards, I'm thinking I must have game, right? Because I have Heavy. If you change Scapegoat, I have Tribe to destroy all the goats. I have Mind Control for the monster, and then I have a bunch of Chaos. However, if you look at Graveyard, I only have 2 Darks. So that means I can only summon 2 Chaos. And I have no other Darks in my hand other than the Chaos Sorcerers. Like, say this Magician of Faith was Dekoichi, then I just win the game. Because I can summon 3 Chaos plus Tribe. But it's not Dekoichi, so the maximum damage I can put on the field is Tribe, Chaos Sorcerer, and BLS, which is 53 plus 16, so 6,900, which was pretty annoying. So I don't have game. So I need to think on the discards. Obviously Thunder Dragon is one of them. And the other, I don't think I want to discard a Chaos Sorcerer. I'm not discarding Heavy, I'm not discarding Tribe, I'm not discarding BLS. So it's then between Mind Control and Faith. Basically, how much do I need the second Mind Control? And I think, considering that he has full Trinity Engrave, and his set monster right now may not be a Faith. It could just be anything that he decided to set to maybe like bait Mind Control. I'm not sure if you saw my replays, because I did have Mind Control game 1 versus Dueling High. So basically I'm just discarding Faith because I feel he'll be able to answer it very easily, considering how reactive he's played this game. So yeah, I feel I need the double Mind Controls, so it's going to be Faith discard. Which may kind of seem crazy, because like there's a Charity Engrave, but that's actually the only discard in my hand. It's the only option. So yeah, I'm obviously Mind Controlling here because I have 2 copies. And it's Merchant, so I flip that, and I'm really hoping I can mill a Dark off this and then win the game. Unfortunately, I just immediately mill Dust Shoot. Dust Shoot is good though. So now, let's see. Now, I could just set Dust Shoot and end turn. That is definitely something I could do. And just like wait for this whole scenario to play out, where I just draw a Dark and win the game. But I decided to just use Heavy Storm and then decide from there what to do. Like I could potentially summon Chaos Sorcerer and banish this Merchant, which is his light for a potential BLS, even though I do have Dust Shoot. So yeah, I decided to go for Heavy Storm. If he chains goats, I'm just going to pass to him, and then he's locked with 4 goats plus Merchant. If he doesn't chain goats, great. Heavy Storm goes +1. He does decide to chain the goats. And had Torrential, So when I see this, I'm going with the plan of just temporarily goat locking him while having all of the answers in my hand for it. And now I just get to see the hand before I decide to commit anything. So he has, my options are Merchant and Zaborg. And as you can see, he had a bunch of scapegoat meta stuff. So it was really good that I wasn't committing to the board. He even had the Snatch. So I played perfectly. Discard here is just Zaborg, because that's the best card in his hand. He could potentially summon it and force me into making my plays, which I would rather not do. So yeah, just send back Zaborg. And I'm hoping he doesn't set Scapegoat here. I think maybe he'll think that he's safe, because if I draw any dark, the game ends instantly. And he doesn't set the Scapegoat, so I have a shot right here. But I don't draw it. I draw Serpent. And so you have a decision here. And I just decided to pass turn again. I don't necessarily want to set Serpent and have him meta. I mean, it would be like fine for that, but it would also be a situation where I'm doing that intentionally and he might read that. And if he leaves the Serpent there, that's really bad for me. So yeah, I just decided to pass turn here. Hide hands so I don't see his draw. He sets a back row. And considering he didn't set Scapegoat last turn, I'm thinking this is probably not Scapegoat. But it could also be a situation where he decided that maybe I do have some kind of crazy OTK with Tribe plus Chaos Monsters and he wants to be safe and set the Scapegoat. It's definitely possible. So now I draw the Dark Monster. And I've got 7 in hand. I could now decide to set Sinister. Yeah, this is a spot that I feel I could play in multiple ways. I feel like setting Sinister is completely fine. And then maybe he drops Thousand Eyes. And then I can basically make him waste a meta and then go for Tribe play. I just decided to go for a Tribe play right now, which may not be correct. It's just when you commit to playing this stall game versus the goats, it gets pretty tough. And remember that I used up my Heavy Storm. So if I decide to wait like, I don't know, 15 turns to get rid of all this, he's gonna collect a bunch of back rows. And that's why I just decide to make the play now. I feel I can out his cards every single turn. So I go for Tribe, destroy all the goats. Night Assailant takes back Faith. And then, and here I do have the option. I do have the option to still go for triple Chaos, attack for game, but it's too risky. Because he could have set the goat. it's too hard to tell. He could have Mirror Force. Would he have set Mirror Force? I'm not sure. If he has Ring, he still loses. If he has Jar Greed, he loses. You can argue that going for game is probably correct. But is it actually worth the risk of just dying to Mirror Force and losing a game that I believe I will win if I play slow? Unless he has Kaiku or something, that would be terrible. So yeah, I decided to get the 1600 in, and then set Mind Control. Let's see why I decide to set Mind Control. It's because... trying to think of why, actually. It's just to, like, give him something to think about when he makes his plays. And he does have End Phase MST. So, I think that Mind Control was probably a mistake. Take back Serpent. I remember that I know he has a Merchant in his hand, so this is very likely that Merchant. So I'm probably kicking myself a little for setting the Mind Control here. So I just attack into the likely Merchant. He mills Tribe, Abyss, Breaker, Faith. So those are all very good cards for me to see go to the graveyard here. Because now I never have to worry about Breaker, one less Faith to worry about. Abyss Soldier's not really a worry, but it would be just an 1800 beater, and Tribe's a big one. So he adds Book of Moon to his hand. Okay. And I type down his hand, Book, Goat, Meta, Snatch. So now I have the option to either set Faith or set Serpent. Now, if I set Serpent, remember he knows I have Serpent, so he's not necessarily just going to go Thousand Eyes my set monster, which makes no sense when I have Tribe up anyway. So I just decide I'm going to set Faith here along with Regeki Break, and obviously having Serpent in hand to feed that Regeki Break. I think there's a pretty good shot that the Faith actually gets through here, because he's probably going to go meta my Tribe and attack or something like that. He probably won't go double meta because my set monster could just be Serpent. So let's see what happens. He goes for meta for Thousand Eyes, which takes the Tribe, and I'm obviously not going to waste Regeki Break here. There's no reason to. And unfortunately he drew Knock. So the Faiths are now gone. And he hits for 16. So what do I still know about hand? I know he has Book of Moon, another meta, and Snatch, and then one unknown card. I draw into the Koichi, so only one play here. I consider if I have game for a little while, but the most I can do is 5300 with Chaos Sork BLS. So I go for the other play, which is Chaos Sorcerer, banish Thousand Eyes, and set Dekoichi. He goes for Meta, which goes for Thousand Eyes, which takes the Sorcerer. So again, I have an option to Regeki Break, but I have again no reason to Regeki Break because I know first of all that he has Snatch in his hand, a Snatch plus Book of Moon, so that if I were to try to Chaos Sorcerer, my own Chaos Sorcerer, he has Book of Moon for it. Whereas if I were to Chaos Sorcerer his Thousand Eyes and he were to Book of Moon that, I could easily just then run it over. So I let him take this. And he attacks. And I'm not going to stop that attack. I draw a Breaker. He sets a back row. Yeah, so I'm not going to end phase Regeki Break or nothing, because this back row is just something that I can use to use Breaker on. And I draw Solemn. I summon Breaker and hit the back row, which happens to be Jar of Greed, so he decided to hold Book of Moon still. I once again look at possible OTK options, but still I can't do enough. I would still only have 46 or something. So just drop Chaos Sorcerer, banish the Thousand Eyes, and then set the Solemn. He still doesn't have Heavy Storm Engrave, so, but you still want to set the Solemn to negate Heavy Storm, because let's say he storms my Regeki Break and then snatches Sorcerer and then has Book to protect. I don't want that to happen, and then I basically have a useless Solemn in my hand. I'd rather Solemn to protect Regeki Break, and then Regeki Break protects me from everything else. So he now decides to use a Snatch, and I will Regeki Break that. And he eventually decides to drop the BLS. I think about this. Check my graveyard. I still have Ring, and I still have Mirror Force. I still have possibly Book of Moon. So I do think that if I allow this, there's a good chance that he would just banish my Sorcerer. And then next turn I can drop BLS, banish his BLS. Now, what about the scenario in which he just attacks both, and I lose a good portion of my potential damage, which is already running pretty low? I don't have Tribe, I don't have my Spies. It looks like I only have one Dekoichi left. One Dekoichi left, and this is all my chaos over here. This BLS is pretty much my final damage output. So if the BLS were to be answered by something really simple, then I basically won't be able to win the game. So I have the Solemn here, and this has no risks, because if you look at the graveyard, BLS, Snatch, 3 Metamorphosis are all gone. Creature swap, a potential creature swap would only be able to take my Breaker. So I'm good here. So he goes for set 3. I know one of them are Book of Moon, and the other two I don't have information on. So I take the Serpent back. Remember that he has Torrential Engrave, but not Mirror Force. And it looks like he's not using Ring here yet. So I go for a very safe play, which is Chaos Sorcerer, banish the token, and then hit for 1600. And now I'm going to need to set Sinister, because if he has creature swap, I still want to keep denying that. Plus, I'm getting a little low on life points with only 37 and a possible ring in the back row. I don't decide to set Dust Shoot because MST is gone and he doesn't have BLS. Yeah. No reason to bluff all the time. And now I draw Mirror Force. So play here is actually pretty obvious. With Torrential Engrave, I get to just special summon BLS in defense mode and banish his monster. He does not negate it. And I do have it just a game shot with Breaker plus Sorcerer, right? 3,900. And that could force out his Book of Moon. However, I don't want to have a situation in which I attack both of those into Mirror Force and then he's still on 38. And then if he finds a way to just stall out BLS, which I can't really list right now of ways. I don't know, save Ring of Destruction and then like Scapegoat. He would be able to stall out my whole deck, pretty much. So I don't do that. Instead I do this little 2-turn clock with 1900 plus 1900 without risking any of my chaos. So he's gonna have to answer this in some way by next turn. And he decides to answer it right now with Mirror Force. So that's huge for me. And I just decide to set the Mirror Force. He sets another back row. And I take Serpent. So I think for a long time here on what I should do. Should I summon Tsukiyomi and get a little extra damage in? Or just put these guys to attack mode and force out the Book of Moon? I wanted to give myself a little more options in main phase 2 with the Tsukiyomi. It's probably like doesn't matter too much. Like I could also just set Sinister main phase 2. So the attack baits out his third Scapegoat. And main phase 2 I have an option with Tsukiyomi. Let's see, he has no metas left, no Snatch. There could be one more creature swap. I honestly think that I should just set Sinister. I think in game I didn't actually realize that all 3 metas were gone. I think that I only knew about 2. But looking here, there's no actual reason for me to go Tsukiyomi to set one of my monsters, which is what I do. I should just set Serpent there so that I can get more damage in next turn. And also this plays into potential Solemn. I decide to set the Dust Shoot now, which is just in case he has like a dead Dust Shoot set I don't want to make it live next turn. So I draw pot, use the pot, which gives me Upstart Snatch. And the only good card left in my deck is the one remaining Nobleman, which is a 1 in 6 to draw. So I do want to just take that with Upstart right now. And I do draw it. I go for the flip BLS and this gets solemned. So that mistake was pretty bad, I think. There was a couple mistakes this game. So I go for Sorcerer Banish, Tsukiyomi, set, knock, attack. This will force Book of Moon. And I set Snatch, because if he draws heavy, he loses. Well, if he draws anything, he loses, basically. Okay, going to game 2 here. You can see I sided into Zombiros. And that's just because he had cards like Abyss Soldier that my deck can't handle that easily. He has Kaiku. So I want to have these in the deck in general versus decks that have aggro monsters. So he goes Upstart, sets a back row, passes. So Set Faith doesn't do anything, Summon Zombiro doesn't do anything. I could just end turn, right? But I could also set Zombira. And let's think about, is he just gonna like summon Abyss Soldier attack? It's possible, he definitely could. But he could also summon Abyss Soldier, play knock, and then attack. He could potentially go end phase Goat. And I don't know, go creature swap to take my set Zombira. Or use meta to take the Zombira. He could burn a Mind Control potentially. I think there's just a lot of good things that happen when I set Zombira. So that is the play. He goes for Jar Greed, sets another back row. So when this happens, the back row, the way he's playing, it could be torrential, but it doesn't have to be torrential. He could just not have monsters. He didn't commit a monster on the first turn, so he didn't have monsters then, so he could still not have monsters. And I just decided I'm going to set Faith and set Book of Moon here, which gives me some kind of Sook Faith book looping in the future turns. And I could also have just done nothing. I could have like set Book of Moon pass. But I feel this is a little better. And once he summons Serpent, he's probably going to use Torrential. And I'm like okay with that trade. It's not amazing for me, but it's fine. So now I have to think. I could just pass turn. Like, this is almost a similar situation to the one I had last game, right? Where I don't commit to the board. He does have a Serpent Engrave right there. So if he has any meta, that would work. However, I do think this one is different. Like, I have a bit more... Well, first of all, if I summon Chaos Sorcerer, I'm gonna Tsukiyomi to put it face down, so he can't do much with it. And I still have Book of Moon, Snatch. I also have this I would have a known Tsukuyomi to answer Thousand Eyes. So here I actually decide to go for the pressure. And again, I could have played this game in completely way more passively. I decided to take just a more aggressive approach to this game. And I don't even think there's anything wrong with the passive approach. So unfortunately he has this Abyss Soldier Serpent play. And attacks me for 18. But yeah, still, even with that, I still have plenty of ways to just hit back at this. I draw Solemn. So the option is between Zambira and Breaker. I obviously would rather just summon Zambira to attack. If that gets answered, that's fine. I would have Breaker for next turn. And I would rather save this Breaker for potentially a better back row. So the Zambira gets through. He doesn't have heavy yet. So I don't think there's any situation in which I would want to solemn anything. Plus it also gives him a really good end phase scapegoat into heavy into meta play. So I would rather just pass turn here. He goes for Charity now. So he has a lot of cards. Discards Serpent Merchant. He had a lot of cards game 1 too, resolving full Trinity early. So he goes for the Sook here to put down my Zambira. And I consider for a second not using Book of Moon, but what ends up happening is I summon Breaker, and then I still have to deal with the Tsukuyomi anyway. So I just decided I'm going to book this right now. Okay. So we get to main phase 1. I consider some options. I believe starting with Zambira Flip is the best way to start it. He allows this. Now I could summon Breaker next to this. He does have Torrential gone. However, what ends up happening is Breaker can hit something that is not Mirror Force. Say it hits Scapegoat or Jar of Greed, and then I attack my 2 monsters into Mirror Force. So what I would rather do is have Zambira attack. If he Mirror Forces, I don't care at all about that. If no Mirror Force, great. It goes back face down. So I would like to have him use up his face down Scapegoats and Jar of Greeds before deciding to play this Breaker, basically. So I just go for the attack here, and it goes through. So that's good with me. And main phase 2, I'm gonna Thunder Dragon. I set Solemn first, it doesn't matter. And I want to just end turn there. I think I consider for a second about tributing the Zambira to secure a Dark, but I don't think there's a reason to do that at all. Yeah. So he grabs Serpent. Plays a Jar of Greed. So as you can see, if I decide to summon Breaker, I could potentially hit into that Jar of Greed. He sets a monster. So this could be Magician of Faith. It could be Serpent. This is his first set monster of the game. So he hasn't actually checked for knock yet, and I could have still kept in some of my mind controls from game 1 that he saw. He saw I had 2 of them. So I do not believe that this set monster will be Faith very often. So what's my play here? I believe it's just flip Zumbira, attack, see what the monster is. It is the serpent. And I don't want to summon Sook, because that makes no sense, because then I would have 7 in hand. So I just want to set Spy next to this, which will be able to advance my game state by inflicting more damage. Okay, so now he goes for the goat meta, the Cert meta play. Obviously not using Solemn on that. And he takes the Zumbira, so he's got 2100 Thousand Eyes. And that's like one of the downsides to having Zumbira in this matchup, is that when Thousand Eyes takes it, 2100 is very strong. It even gets over these spies. But the Zumbira did pretty good work getting rid of that Abyss Soldier very easily. And just like slowing down the game. That's like what the card does best. Alright, so main phase 2 he goes for Deity Designator calling Tsukiyomi. I do have Solemn set, but there's just no way that I could possibly Solemn this. And unfortunately, this gets him to see my hand. So now he will be able to play perfectly. So I draw Night Assailant. So I have to think here. I have a Chaos Sorcerer play. I also have Breaker. I think at this point it's correct to just bring out the Breaker. He has Double Jar Greed's Engrave, and if I hit Scapegoat, that's great for me, because that means he would not be able to add any more pressure. I think in game I wasn't keeping track of the back rows, but right now I am. The card behind Thousand Eyes is a card that Abyss Soldier couldn't stop. I summoned Zumbira, attacked Abyss Soldier, and this middle back row did nothing. And then he set this new back row. I still have Heavy Storm in deck, so it's possible the new back row is more likely to be Scapegoat, and the middle back row is more likely to be, I don't know. The middle back row could also just be Scapegoat, because he had like Serp this whole time. He didn't want to like waste the Scapegoat yet. So I just decided to flip a coin on these, because I don't have a huge read on what either could really be. And I don't necessarily want to hit Scapegoat, but I also don't care about hitting Scapegoat. Okay, so now I have this situation. If I summon Chaos Sorcerer, banish the Thousand Eyes, what ends up happening? Well, he's got Tribe in his deck still. He's halfway through his deck, so there is a very good chance he has Tribe by now. And if you look at my hand, I can't actually do anything to Tribe. I would have to Solemn it, and if that doesn't work, I just lose, because this hand has nothing going for it anymore. I mean, there is like Snatch, Tribe, discard Night Assailant, but that probably won't work, because he knows I have all that. So I just decide I'm going to pass turn here, creating the situation where he can't do anything but attack with a Thousand Eyes. he sets another back row, and I draw the best card in my deck, Graceful. So I'll use that, which gives me Tribe, another very good card. Knock, Upstart, so all good draws. Discard the Thunder Dragon Knight, which grabs back my Spy. And I still have the third Spy in deck. Just going to use Upstart here, which gives me Regeki Break, which is also a good card. So now I have to think again. So I can't just pass forever and let him just attack over all my spies with 1,000 Eyes. I could potentially wait one more turn. It's definitely possible. But I think going Chaos Sorcerer at this point, while I have Regeki Break for a tribe, looks pretty good to me. So I decide this is the time to summon Chaos Sorcerer. Again, I could definitely just set Spy, set Regeki Break, and wait another turn, see how the situation looks. But I decide doing it right now is also fine. So he goes and draws Pot of Greed. I can't solemn this, so he has a lot of cards. He goes for MST on my new card, so I'm just going to chain that, discarding Thunder Dragon. I can't remember if I decide to flip here. Remember, this middle card has been here this whole time, and I don't really know what the new card can be either. I think I do decide to flip. No, I decide to finally take out that old one. It's really hard to say what the old one could be or what the new one could be. New one could be like Ring of Destruction, while the old one can't be. So the old one was just a bluff like Creature Swap, which I'm happy to take out here. And he goes for the tribe now. If this tribe attacks my Spy and then uses Effect Main Phase 2, I can't win the game. I straight up cannot win the game. So I have to use Solemn right now. And just pray things go well. So he passes, and Torrential's gone, remember. So yeah, I'm just going to summon Tribe, destroy the tokens, flip the Spy, and just put everything to attack mode. If he has Mirror Force, I lose. If he doesn't, well, I could win. And that's it. He lost. His back row was Ring, so that couldn't stop me. And if you actually look at his hand, he has plenty of cards that could have potentially stopped this. He had to play like Snatch. He could have snatched my Sorcerer, banished Spy. He could have set Scapegoat. But I feel like he just didn't see this line coming. Because I drew the tribe later, but he still... like, if you're playing a Scapegoat deck, you should probably always be thinking about tribe. And him knowing I had a Spy set, that would just be game. So I feel like he should have done something. But he felt safe with just 4 goats and Ring, and he was punished and just lost, so that's how the game goes. Anyway, this was a pretty long video, so thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.